It's December 5th, 2022. Welcome to Potkaars. My name is Rico Brouwer. My guest is returning guest Teun van Sambeek in part 3 of a talk about 1 coin hour. 1 coin per hour. Potkaars is a pot with candle conversations that shed light, provide hope, hopefully. Where's my camera? There you go. And here is Teun. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hi.
On this special day.
Special day. Oh yeah, for us, we're Dutch, so it's Sinterklaas, Santa Claus, but then a couple of weeks early.
Exactly. And Sinterklaas always gives things away, and it's sort of similar to our coin, which is sort of given away to everybody.
Yeah, he leaves today. So after. So have you celebrated Sinterklaas then, or no?
No.
Okay.
Nobody knows about it.
So you're in Nigeria. I heard he made an appearance in South Africa in the Dutch community. So that might even be happening with you, no?
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, so this is the third talk that we have on the topic of onecoinh.org, 1 coin per hour, as a alternative to maybe how would you react if I say it's an alternative to the central bank digital currency thing that's popping up everywhere? Is that what it is?
It's like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And similar. It's interesting. Yes.
So in talk 1, which was in Dutch but English subtitled, we explain functionally how it works, what you would get and why you would do it. Talk 2, we went deeper, and there was an English talk which is Dutch subtitled. And now in this part, I want to go into the technology side of things. Now, before non-techies switch off, I've asked Teun to do this in a technology for dummies kind of way. So if we succeed, everybody will still understand what we're talking about at the end of this conversation. But we will go under the hood now. How does this thing work? And what I want you to take away from this is a feeling that says, why should I trust it? So what technology choices have been made that will allow me to trust this thing with what I work for my value or what have you? Now, Teun would answer that by saying, well, you don't have to work for it. You can, but you get 1 coin per hour. If you're alive, you get 1 coin. Okay, but how can I trust it? Also, what I want you to take away from this talk is, how does it differ from cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, and how is it different from central bank digital currencies? So let's see if we can get these things discussed. First, Teun, I know it's on a phone or on a device. It's not tangible as in paper. What's on the device then? What did you build?
Yeah. So it's simply some software. It's like we write it in JavaScript. It can run standalone, so it's not like a website which does all kind of calculations. So you just have like a program running on your phone, and that's also the intention, that we have no connection with the internet, so that nobody can interfere with the transaction. So you just need to have 2 phones. And imagine, let's say, Nigeria, where you're in a village far away from any electricity, but most people here have a smartphone, and they can still take their smartphones, bring them close together, establish a connection, and transfer, let's say, data. But in fact, which is in fact transferring money or coins that we do. So it's a digital system, but it can run standalone on smartphones.
Okay. So if I were to meet you and we do not have an internet connection at that time, we can still transact. That's what you say. I can still transfer value to your device, be that a phone or whatever we have in the future. And it's open source. So you've chosen the programming language of JavaScript. You've open sourced it so programmers can see what you've done. Can people then download it from the App Store, or how does that work? How do I get it on my phone?
Yeah, so we have a website, and there you can get the software. So that's probably the first thing we do. That's how we did it in the pilot. So you just download some software and you put it on your phone. It wasn't in a web store then. So it's just, let's say, code that you put in a certain directory on your phone, and then as a sort of procedure, you open your website, and from that website on your phone, you open the let's say the programming code, like you open a website. So in your browser, you just type in the location of the file that you opened, and from there you start your program. So that's how we did it in the pilot. Later, we will create an app that we will try to put in the App Store or in and it was the other one. I don't know. for the,
Yeah.
Your,
so for it will be
Play Store.
Even from the start, it will be an app that you fire on, start up on your phone, just like a browser. And later on, you might program it to an app that you could download from the App Store, but with the same functionality. Okay.
Yeah, or Play Store. But then these companies like Apple needs to approve it, and I can imagine that they will have some difficulties doing that. What we will also do is we will also create a website, or we already sort of created that website, but where you can just run it as like you do other software on a website. So that's the other solution we will also provide.
Yeah, but then I need the internet.
But then you are on the internet, so then that system could be blocked also. So that's not the end goal, or let's say our end solution.
Okay. But initially, it will be something that's running locally. It might end up being an app in the App Store. It might even be something that's running from a website, so you don't have to run it on your phone. Okay, and it's programmed in JavaScript. Thank you.
Exactly.
Okay, then let's compare the $1 system to what people might have heard of or looked at before, both Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies and central bank digital currency, and what the technology under that. Now, if I would start it off, when I played with Bitcoin, first thing I learned was, and you can do that on your phone. So if you want to do Bitcoin on your phone, just to stay close to your solution so you can compare it later on, I would download software, install software, and I would first create a private key, a key that only I know, only my device knows. It's a very secure private thing. You don't want to share it. If you share it, you lose your money. And with that private key comes a public key that I would share and communicate to others. That's the crypto part of the cryptocurrency. How does that compare to what you're doing? Does that involve private public key infrastructure?
So the big difference with cryptocurrencies is that let's say OneCoin is not a cryptocurrency. So we don't encrypt anything. Let's say in our previous podcast we explained why we don't do it. It's in very short. It's because, let's say, you want to connect your identity to one income stream, and if you encrypt that, there's no way to check, let's say, decentralized, if people are not committing fraud, because when everything is encrypted, you can't check anything. So what we say is we can't encrypt anything. So that means that everything we do, all our data will be fully public. So everybody can see everything else from anybody else. And we do that to create money. Yeah? So that's our main goal, that money will be created. And that's why we think it's sort of, we can allow this to happen, that I think people will appreciate that solution in the end. But with us, everything is open. So we don't use any encryption. So you don't have an identity that is encrypted, or and also because we think that encryption will, let's say, keeping your private key safe will be a massive issue in the future, especially for people that are not technical savvy. They can easily be scammed out of their private key and then lose all their money. which will be a very big problem.
Okay. I understand that you have solved the problem that arises if you don't encrypt trust and identity on another way. We'll get to that later on in this conversation. Now, when I said in Bitcoin you have this private key and a public key, the public key being sort of like your home address, like you can share that to others, or your bank account number. If you want people to give you money, you give them the bank account number, and then they can send you funds. That would be your public key equivalent in Bitcoin. However, we don't use the private key or the public key or transactions that we do. We exchange hashes based on them. And that part, the hashing part, is being used. What can you tell us about how hashing is a part of your solution? We talked public and private key as it being used in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, and that key is way big. But what I didn't mention is that we're actually not using the big long public key to identify ourselves or to show our address. We're using hashes based on that key. And you said that OneCoin H is also using hashes. So how is hashing being used in your solution?
Yeah, so first let me explain shortly what a hash is. So a hash is a procedure where you can put data in, and then a string of 64 characters comes out. So you can put a single character in, like an A, and then you got 64 sort of random characters. Not really random, because if somebody else puts in an A, you will get exactly the same 64 characters. But for example, if you have the Bitcoin blockchain, which is like 400 gigabytes of data, with a lot of data, you can also put it in the same procedure, and you will get 64 characters out of it. And if somebody changes one single byte in this entire 400 gigabyte of data of the big Bitcoin, then the 64 characters that come out of the procedure will be completely different. So you will see immediately, okay, something went wrong. Something is changed in this data. Now, this procedure is sort of a one-way. So if you, let's say, have 64 random characters or 64 characters, you will never be able to guess what brought the data to that, unless you have a very small string, let's say 1A or 2 B's or whatever. Then you can sort of guess it more easily, but you will never be able to guess what the entire Bitcoin blockchain looks like, or for example, a picture. So if you have a picture, you put it in, you get 64 characters. You will never be able to guess what kind of picture it was that was put in. No. Which means that you can't commit fraud. So, for example, if you would want to change something of a picture, then it's possible that you can take a small corner, change the colors a little bit, and if you do that, let's say billions of times in that small corners, because you have very quickly billions of possible changes that you can make, then it will take, let's say, all the computers in the world for 1 million years to figure out how you can change this image and still get that same, let's say, result, that same hash. So it's not possible. And that's very secure. And that's why Bitcoin is so secure. Nobody is able to crack it. And there are some rumors that you will have, let's say, quantum computers that will be able to do that. But I don't really believe it. It's so complicated that you can't do it. And I think when you have these computers, you can simply say, okay, now we're going to double the size of our hash, and then these quantum computers also will fail.
Yeah, another argument that's being made with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin is that it's a chain of events. So every 10 minutes, another calculation is made, and a block is added to that chain. So even if you were to be able to compromise that hashing mechanism, with lots of computer power, you would have to do that in a short time frame. Otherwise, all the miners globally would have agreed on that new block, and you can't compromise going back in time, because everybody in the world is seeing that same mechanism. They're all exchanging that same big database. They're all running the same big blockchain, as it's called. And well, you might be able to compromise the next block, but you can't do that in the past. Now that's the power of decentralization and all those miners working together. And that's the benefit of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. It's distributed as compared to central bank digital currencies where you rely on the trustworthiness of one party that's doing it closed, like the central bank. Now you said that I'm running my own little blockchain on my device if I participate in your OneCoin age. So can you dive in a little deeper and explain to me how does that work then and what's exchanged?
Yeah. So how it works is that everybody has like two files on his phone, or that's the way he starts with. So he has his, let's say, his identity, which just holds sort of a picture, and that picture is hashed, and that's a hash. So, and that's the, let's say, your ID that you use over and over again, and you have a personal blockchain, and this is just a database which holds also the hash of your identity. So your identity is also put in that file, and then you add just your transaction. So when I do a transaction with you, I take your identity, so your hash is also put in there, and then I say, okay, this person with this hash transfers like 5 points to the person with that hash. And then, so you add a little bit of data, then you hash it because you don't want anybody else to change it in the future. So you hash that data and you exchange it. So you get my, let's say, little database, and I get your database, because in your database, it's also said that you receive these 5 points from me. So it's also changed. So you add that data to yours, you hash it again, and we exchange these files. So that's basically how it works. And you do that with everybody you transact with. And you also get the blockchains the other person collected. So that you can check if, let's say, the transactions that he did were correct. Yeah? So you very fast collect a lot of blockchains from each other. But because you don't do so many transactions in a year, and a lot of these let's say blockchains are from the same person, so you can replace them with the newer ones. You don't need to copy the entire history. You just take the let's say the added transactions plus your blockchain. So that's what you start collecting. So let's say after a year you have like 1,000 blockchains collected from different people, or perhaps 10,000. Well, every blockchain is about after a year, it's like 1 megabyte. So perhaps you collected 1,000 of them. So then you have, let's say, 1 gigabyte of data on your phone collected. And that's sort of how it works. But this data it consists of all kinds of transactions. So there are millions of transactions in all these blockchains that you have collected. And then the software, let's say the OneCoin, the OneCoin H software, will compare all these blockchains with each other to see if there's fraud going on. And because it's so much data and it's all, let's say, webbed into each other very, very closely, you will be able to see very quickly if there's some fraud. And these hashes are very, let's say, useful for that, because you just need to look at a hash and look at a hash that is in another blockchain, and then you can see, okay, this fits. So they use the same history. So you don't need to go through all the history, but you just need to compare these hashes, and then you can see if there has been some fraud.
Okay, but if I transact with you, I buy something from you, we exchange blockchains. I receive your copy of your current blockchain and your identity. What's to prevent me from impersonating you and stealing your coins then?
Yeah, so what will happen is that normally you have a small community where you work in. So there are, let's say, many people around you that know you, and you very quickly build up, let's say, all these you collect these blockchains of these people. So they are the people that sort of keep you in check. Now, if you start to commit fraud, then what will happen is that the people around you will notice it, because you will. So what you see is that the same person has like 2 different blockchains. So there is a strain that goes there, which is hashed with that hash, and there is a mismatch. And what happens then is that that person immediately loses trust. So people around you will say, okay, what's going on? And they will say, yeah, but that's not me. So somebody is impersonating me. And then it's about your community, the people around you, that need to say, okay, then we don't trust that blockchain. So we throw it out. So the person that tries to do something with it is sort of thrown out. And the coins that are created by that person are not accepted by your community anymore. So basically what happens is that if you commit fraud or somebody else commits fraud, then it's your community, your people around you that will decide, okay, we throw out this one and we keep that one, which is different than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is with Bitcoin, it's like all these miners that keep everybody in check. And this massive, let's say, calculation procedure that's going on to see if everything is valid. In our case, it's different because let's say you collect all these small personal blockchains, and it's about your family and your friends to decide whose coin to trust and whose coins are not to trust.
Yeah, so then when I first start, if I would install it today and I would acquire my first coin, then I would not have a network of peers that are trusting me. So making that first transaction, I would need to do that with people say, I know you. Yeah, I want to do this with you. And then I would slowly grow my network of trust, and I would take that to the bakery and he would say, okay, yeah, you're trustworthy. And he would sell me his bread. That would be how it works.
Because the baker already sold bread to your brother and to your mother, and you know, so that gives him another level of trust, and your app will show it. So your app will, so the app of the baker will say, okay, this guy should be trusted because we see this and this and this, and he probably will also say, okay, so you're related to, because he probably sees, okay, another Brouwer in his list, so he can see what your connections are. And that is, let's say, the advantage, but also a sort of disadvantage, because your privacy is sort of lost there. And so using these coins means that everybody that's using these have the sort of insight in what you're doing. But that's the trade-off. So what we say is we need to take control of the money creation, but to do that, we need to trust each other, which means that you give up privacy to, let's say, your community. And the important thing is that you do that to create these coins. And if you want to keep your privacy, there are other ways to do private, let's say, transactions, but it's not in this coin.
Yeah, exactly. And also we were trying to compare with Bitcoin, but not just Bitcoin, also central bank digital currencies, where you could argue that Bitcoin is open and transparent also. I mean, everybody can look into the blockchain and see what's been going on with these coins. But with central bank digital currencies, there's no transparency for you. It's an obscure system, but the central bankers and the governments will know exactly with whom you've transacted. So you're replacing that obscurity by transparency for all, basically.
Yeah, and this obscurity is so bad that we even don't know if it's a blockchain at all. If it's or we have no clue. So it's
We're not just transacting with the local bakery or your bicycle repair shop or what have you. We're also purchasing and transacting on the internet. So how is identity assessed then with the web shop, for instance?
Yeah. So the web shop is sort of the last transaction in order of building trust, because that these so when you have a web shop, you really don't know who these people are normally. So what will happen is that a web shop, it will be the same for the web shop. So the guy that builds the web shop is also, he will transact with his peers first. Then this web shop starts growing, and he starts to collect a lot of data, a lot of personal blockchains. Also first from his own local community, but later he wants to get that across, let's say, the country, because he is shipping his products through an entire country. So now in that case, he needs to have quite a big base of information. But if you have like 100 people already in your let's say database of transactions, there is something that is called, let's say, the 7 steps to meet everybody in the world. So in 7 steps, you can reach sort of everybody in the world, because I know you, you knew that person. So let's say in 7 steps, we can reach the president of the United States, for example, or some let's say some Indian in the Amazon. And our system is also a bit like that. So if you collect some data, you very quickly you will be able to check everybody in your country, because in your data probably everybody already is there one way or another, and so that mountain of trust, as I call it, will build very fast, and then also this web shop will be able to assess if a person is trustworthy. Then already with, let's say, our software and or decentralized open source software. But what I also expect is the internet will not go away, so we will probably have let's say also a fair internet, and on that internet there will be sites that also collect all these data and do checks on them. So do let's say checks if these blockchains just are let's say connected to each other in a proper way, and will also, let's say, give advice. So as a web shop owner, you can go to a website probably, and that website and bring a hash, let's say an identity hash to that website, and then the website will say, okay, we can trust this person because he already did like hundreds of transactions for over years. So there's no way, let's say, there's no reason to believe that this guy is a scammer.
Okay, cool. So it's open source software, meaning every programmer can see what you've done. And the flip side of that is you can work with you, perhaps. Are you looking for people to join in? What are you looking for building? And where can people that know how to program join?
Yeah, so what we're doing currently is to transfer the pilot software, which was just JavaScript software that run isolated on your phone. We are now, let's say, updating that on a GitLab website. And a GitLab website is, let's say, set up in a way that it's open source. So everybody all developers can join in, can download the software, can advise, let's say, give an advice, okay, I should, let's say, add this part or that part, or change this part or that part. And then the people that, let's say, control the GitLab, they can decide, okay, we tested this is proper, and we add it to the software. And everybody else that goes to that GitLab site can see what is done and react to that. If they say it's not proper or not smart to do it like that, then you get a reaction. So, but that's how these sites. You have GitHub, but we do it on GitLab, which is a different one, because it's also open source and it's not owned by some big tech company. So that's why we chose for GitLab. So JavaScript developers can go there. If you want to find it, just go to our onecoinage.org website, and then you will see on the homepage already where to find this GitLab page, or you can scroll down entirely to the website, and in the let's say in the footer you can also find where this GitLab website is. And we're looking for as many as possible, you know. So the more people join it, the more eyes you have on the software, so the better it will get, and the faster it will finish.
Okay. At what point will I be, as a user, be able to put it on my phone and see how it works? And what do I get? Do I have to wait for an hour to get a coin, or what do I get when I start using this?
Yeah. So probably the first thing that will run I expect is a web-based version. So it's not an app that you go at, so that you download through the App Store or to the Play Store, but it will just be a website where you already can start looking at it, and which will create a file on your phone. So your personal blockchain will be put on your phone, but the software will run from a website. I think that is the easiest thing for us to achieve in a very short period of time. So that will probably be first. Then the next step will be, I think, and I hope that it will be ready in, let's say, 1 or 2 months, Then the next step will be a proper, let's say, app that can run from the browser on your phone, which is still not downloadable from the App Store or the Play Store. I think that will be probably 2 to 3 months after that. So let's say March, April. And then if we can get to the App Store or the Play Store, that just depends on let's say, if we are, how we are vouched there. Because I can imagine that the people that own, that they say these platforms are not really willing to bring our initiative on their stores, because we are a threat to their owners.
They're developing their own currencies and their own payment system. However, the way to discredit you, and then we're wrapping up here, the way to discredit you would be attacking you on your trustworthiness. Like, yeah, but the encryption can be compromised, or the private key that you're running, it may not be secure on the phone, but you're not even using that. So there is no...
We don't use them, so that would be not very useful.
Exactly.
And you know, it's your own community that just let's say, those are the one that will see ultimately if it works. So let's say big tech should then attack this small group of people, and the only thing I can see that work is that they put some things in your phone, so that they put some things in the operating system of your phone that will sort of attack your personal blockchain or stuff like that. But that will be probably very easy to detect if something like that happens. And but it could be ultimately that we just abandon phones and that we make a sort of our own device. So we talked about the P, or what's the name of the strawberry?
Raspberry Pi.
Strawberry.
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, the
Raspberry
yeah.
Pi.
Okay. Okay, let's wrap it up there, and maybe we continue this talk in a couple of months when you have something up and running. I encourage every programmer that's interested to check out what they've been doing at onecoinh.org. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teun.
Het gaat hier vandaag over saamhorigheid.
Dagje zonder hemel.
Dus de liegt niet. Normaal maken is wat niet is normaal.
Alleen maar blauwe
in
lucht.
every region now has a decision to make.
En dan ook geen hel meer.
You think I'm joking? Predator
Dat
drones.
is best makkelijk.
You will never see it coming.
Wat dacht je, alle mensen
Laat staan dat ik kan ingaan over vuur.
bezig met vandaag.